Sure, we're good. How's everybody doing? Super excited to be here today. Thanks everybody for tuning in. I hope you guys and gals are doing well. Angie's upstairs making lunch for Soph, so I'm drawing with the phone above my head. So hopefully I won't knock it out of focus. We're still trying to figure out the best place to put the phone. Each day I've moved it in a different angle and location to try to give you the best view while I'm working, so it feels like you're right here with me. If you tuned in yesterday, you probably saw that I finished the dwarf a little more than he was yesterday. I went in and did a little more detail work on him, kind of warming up before we get started today. He's coming along, but there's still lots to do, and I think we can get it close to finish by the end of our hour together. I have to be honest, I'm a little I woke up anxious today, and I'm feeling more anxious today than I felt since the news of all this has happened. And I'm thinking about everybody, and I'm thinking about people and their jobs, especially people who can't go to their jobs. I'm very fortunate in that Angie and I can work here from home, and we've had enough success that we can weather a lack of work for a little while. But I'm thinking about everybody else who's, in retail or in a job that has them at home and not able to work and make an income. And it's got me anxious and worried about a lot of friends and family. It is certainly trying times. And so I think today I needed to draw and hang out with everybody a little more than ever. Here come the dogs. And Soph, how are you, kiddo?
Good.
Good. Just drawing live with everybody on the Facebook, working on some mushrooms. I'm using a precise extra fine V5 for all these little mushrooms. I'll do a recap in a little bit of where we are for those who are tuning in for the first time. It's a drawing of a dwarf who has gone into a cave. His name is Helmet Feldspar, and he was looking for mushrooms for a potion in a forbidden cave and has come across a group of mushroom people, and he has drawn his weapon. So we've been kind of developing this over the course of the week. It started from nothing, really, an inspiration from an old Dungeons and Dragons monster manual, and we're kind of making a fantasy illustration, something that I love to do in my downtime. And I have a little bit of downtime right now. I finished Kenny and the Dragon 2, the sequel, just a few months ago, maybe a month ago, a little over a month ago. All the final art. In fact, I was thinking maybe the next thing I would draw would be a scene from the Kenny and the Dragon books, because it's kind of similar to the way I'm working now, but in pencil as opposed to pen, which would be, so I just kind of mix it up a little bit. Plus, it's always fun to draw Kenny and his friends. So I'm kind of chugging along. I can't I'm not looking at the phone right now. The phone's above me, and Angie's not here to take questions, but we will take questions and stuff here shortly. I was hoping to finish this today so that maybe tomorrow we'll do a studio tour, and that would actually give me a little time to pick the studio up between now and tomorrow, since it's a little trashed. Everything's a little haywire for us, just as it is for so many people across the globe. And I'm thinking of everybody today. I truly am. I've been trying to keep up with the news and the numbers and the forecasts of where they think this is going to go and how long it's going to go for, and it's very worrisome, to say the least. And I know I will just keep drawing and hanging out with you for the duration, and I'm happy to do it. I feel like we're not alone in it. But unlike the other days this week that I've been drawing for you, for whatever reason today, I'm just feeling it a little more than I have. It's not that I've ignored what's going on. It's just, I try to remain the optimist. I have faith in doctors and scientists, and hope that we'll all come out on the other side of this with as few casualties as possible. I'm drawing some cave mushrooms here. I'm literally drawing these from my imagination, and I think from having drawn mushrooms for so many years and kind of knowing and seeing mushrooms and photographing mushrooms out on hikes and stuff. I wasn't sure if mushrooms grew in caves. A viewer was able to look it up and say that they do grow on bat guano, of all things, which makes total sense. And so, and seems oddly appropriate for the situation we all find ourselves in. But I kind of drawing these guys in, and then I'm going to focus on the mushroom people. I was looking at stalactites and stalagmites, and I'm standing up now so I can actually see the phone. Hi, Tom Hoffelder. Hi, how you doing, Tom? It's good to see you here. Hope you're doing well and hanging in there in Florida. Tom, can I borrow $1 for lunch? I feel like I need a $1. Tom used to always loan me lunch money in high school. I feel like with interest, I probably owe you like $1,000 now, since it's been 200 years since we were in high school. But I hope you're doing well. I'm doing so a little bit. So I'm doing all this little detail work with a finer pen. Now the light source is here, so the shadows are going to be on this side of the stalagmite. If we learned anything, whether it's how I draw or not, I think we can all agree we've learned what a stalactite and a stalagmite is from this. And I don't think Dungeons and Dragons, you have to know how to draw caves, and I certainly had to learn how to draw caves when I worked on the Spiderwick books way back when. We did a whole one of the whole books took place in a cave, the Dwarven caves, and the kids had to get out. So I remember referencing caves then, really looking at them closely as an illustrator for the first time, and I have had the opportunity to hike and explore caves when much younger, when I was a Boy Scout, and I absolutely was enamored. I loved being in there. It was so fascinating and a little scary at the same time. Looking back up, hey, good to see Joe's here. Oh, Brett, thank you very, very much for your kind words. And thank you, Kat. Yes, if you're just tuning in, I was feeling it a little bit today. I was a little more anxious than I've been And for whatever reason, it's struck me a little harder today than it has earlier in the week. Not that I wasn't thinking about it earlier in the week, or last week, but just feeling it a little more today than I have up to this point. If you're tuning in for the first time, I'll do a quick recap. And just so we know, we started with a bunch of doodles that were done, inspired by a drawing I did nearly 30 years ago of a myconid, aka a fungus man, from the Dungeons and Dragons Monster Manual. I do these often. I love kind of going back to these fantasy creatures. We did a bunch of sketches, but the one I think that I certainly liked and seemed like a lot of you enjoyed as well was this puffball version of a mushroom man, and I drew him kind of walking. And we were trying to figure out how he shoots out his spores. Anyway, the next day, that was Monday. Then Tuesday, we were thinking about maybe a scenario, and I was inspired by a dwarf that I had drawn when I did Inktober, which is a drawing initiative, if you're not familiar with it, that is held on the internet every year and was organized by a man named Jake Parker. And I kept drawing this one dwarf, Helmet Feldspar, and he had a buddy. His buddy was always getting into trouble. Helmet was kind of the more cautious and logical one. So we thought about maybe kind of drawing Helmet, maybe encountering these mushrooms, maybe Helmet's fighting the mushrooms. Here's Helmet being surrounded by the mushrooms. And as a joke, we thought, maybe Helmet's camping in the cave and cooking mushrooms, and then the mushroom people show up. And we ended up kind of using all these ideas and kind of forming a sketch that we did on Tuesday of Helmet in a cave collecting mushrooms. I kind of came up with the idea for a potion. He's in a forbidden cave, and then the mushroom people have shown up to see what Helmet's up to. We gathered reference, and we learned what mycelium are, which are essentially the roots that a mushroom uses, which became very handy and inspirational for things like the fingers and toes of our mushroom people. I gathered some cave reference. This is the stalagmites at the bottom, stalactites at the top. The stalactites tend to be drippier. The stalagmites tend to be rounder, at least in this illustration, and several of the other illustrations, or photographs that I found, so I use that as my reference. Here's some more. Very cool. And from there, somebody suggested a drinking horn. If you don't know what a drinking horn, this guy will tell you exactly what a drinking horn is. It's a hollowed out horn used to fill, I'm going to guess that guy's drinking some sort of ale. And so here we've added a drinking horn to our guy as well. Chris Steinmetz wants to know if I'll be here tomorrow. I have been here every day this week. I will be here tomorrow. I may take the weekend off. We'll see. But you can count on it that I'm going to just keep going. As long as we're all trapped in our houses for the next month, possibly, or more, I will keep drawing for you guys. You guys have always been here for me, and I am happy to do it and be here, and so that we feel connected in some way, in my small way. I think tomorrow, if I can finish this today, I think tomorrow what we'll do is a tour of my studio, and I'll let you guys kind of guide, where to go. So I'll get back to it here. I think I'm going to block in the darks. So I've kind of avoided the darkest darks, and this will be the dark parts of the cave, kind of around here. So I think I'm going to go and block those in. I'm not going to do that with the little fine pen because it'll take forever, and for the sake of kind of getting something done. So while we're here together, I'm going to go ahead and use this as a Pigma Brush Pen. I have a bunch of these. This one's a little worn. The tip, I don't know if you can see it or not. The tip on this guy is a little frayed. It's not focusing, but it's a little frayed. It's not as pointy as it once was. When they're pointy, you can get a hairline with them. But I think for this, I'm going to go ahead and try to do a little bit of light cross hatching, but you can see that it's a much thicker line, but it's going to allow me to quickly block in these dark areas, which I think the illustration needs at this point. Now you can see I'm not filling. I'm not coloring. I'm still hatching, and I am holding this thing as light as possible, by the way. I'm barely pressing down on it at all, so I get not just a light line, but kind of a scratchy, sketchy line out of it. So I'm just going to lay these first, and I'll probably just do one side at a time here. I'm just kind of curious to see how it looks. And it may not work. It may be too heavy. And if that's the case, I'll show you what I'd do if it is too heavy. As I mess these things up often through process, or I'm unhappy or dissatisfied with certain ways that they come out. For those just tuning in, Andrew's upstairs making lunch for Soph, so it's hard for me to see your questions. I will occasionally stop, look up at the phone, and answer questions along the way. But we'll hang tight until Andrew's down here. I got to be honest with you guys. Last night was the first night I've actually had a good night's sleep. I've been staying up later than normal. I usually go to bed. I'm usually up pretty early. I take Sophia to school. We're all up around 6:30. We've been sleeping late. I mean, we're kind of still on spring vacation. But normally I'm, as my friends will tell you, by 10:30, I am completely done. Like, I want to be in bed and snoring by 10:30 if I can. Usually 10 o'clock is when I'm looking at my watch and thinking about walking the dogs and going to bed. And I mean, there's the last few nights I had been up till almost 1 o'clock in the morning, watching the news, reading the news, watching TV, trying to take my mind off of everything. And it was starting to take a toll on me. I was starting to feel run down and not so great. So last night I made a point to go to bed. I forced myself to go to bed earlier than I had been, which helped a lot. I felt a lot better this morning, but I'm still anxious, very anxious today. And like I said, just worried for many of you and our friends who are so reliant on the day-to-day work, and the fact that as nice as it is to be home and spending time with people, your loved ones, the reality of work is still, and an income is still so very real and very scary, because we none of us have answers. We don't know when things will be, back to normal. But one thing, I will just keep drawing every day and hanging out, and we'll just get through it together. It too shall pass. I remember Angela and I lived in New York during 9/11, and I felt like it would never, that fear and anxiety would never go away. And then it did in time, and it took a long time. And I'm sure for everybody it did in different ways and in different periods of time. But it did pass, and things started to feel a little normal again. So, I think of Dory from Little Nemo saying, "Just keep swimming," and I think for me it's just keep drawing. So that's what I'm doing. When I'm a geezer and someone asks me how I did it, I can tell them I just kept drawing. And sometimes I needed, like this, an escape hatch into a fantasy world where mushroom people may not be as evil as we think they are. So I'm kind of just putting in these strokes with my brush pen. And then I'm gonna vary the stroke here and cross hatch it in a minute. I just wanted to get the general shape so I can kind of see, because it actually, some of it's kind of cool. That the fact that I used vertical lines gives it kind of a drippiness, which is kind of cool. So you can hear that, you could hear that cave sound. I don't know if I can do it. I'll try to do it. I used to be able to do it really good as a kid. But it's that, hold on, I gotta plug the phone in. Sorry about that, guys. There we go. Forgot to plug it in. I do this a lot when we're playing D&D. I always do the sound where the caves are there. But I love the idea. I'm always thinking about that and making sound effects. I'm standing up here, so I'm looking at my phone, and Lisa D. Imperio says, I noticed you fill the negative space after you flesh everything out instead of the details. The strokes seem rough. These strokes are rough. I'm still kind of building and fleshing it around, fleshing it in. And so I can do a couple of things. I can get these really dark, and it'll keep your eye kind of moving, right? I can keep the darkest parts in a certain area, which we might try first. But I needed to kind of get a better map of how everything's kind of looking. The other thing I have to do is lantern. And I'm probably going to put some more darks in a sword. I feel like a sword should have some more of these darks in it. I'll just pump them up there. Because that was something I was really thinking about, was that the sword was really dark and your eye went to it. And I think now what I'm going to do is I'm going to move on to the mushroom guys and kind of build it from there, I think. I feel like this should have... I feel like there would be a little something right there, and maybe. Let's see. All right, I'm going to work on the stalactites and the stalagmites. And the mushroom guys. Let's start with this. I've been dying to do these just to get in here and start. I was thinking of almost like these, like a frog's jaw or an anglerfish, that big deep sea anglerfish, big giant mouth that this thing has. And then he's got, obviously he has these eyes and these eye stalks. And then he's got all these, when we were looking at the puffball reference, it had almost like these little pimples all over it, over the cap of the mushroom, which I think is going to add a lot of neat texture here. And I'm using the fine tip. So a lot of times what I'll do is I'll kind of try out an area. I try to work a little symmetrically. So you see I did his cheek here, so now I'm doing the cheek here while I'm thinking of it. And his eye. And then I think I'm going to switch really quick to the head. This was a V5 extra fine. This is a V7 fine, so it's a little bit heavier. And I'm just gonna make the little bumps in the mushroom cap a little bigger here. So maybe they're bigger in the center, and then they get smaller and more fine as they go towards the edges. And who knows, these could also be more eyes, we just don't even know. I mean, maybe the eyes are kind of inconspicuous amongst the bumps on the cap, and then they can kind of extend them out whenever. I can even almost put a little, I'll switch here. I'm gonna do, I went with that. Now I'm going back with the fine point. I want it to get a little denser in the center. So I'm just going in and putting some little tiny pockets, little points of black. And I'm gonna go in and do the mouth. I don't know why it has teeth. Now that I think about it, I don't know if it needs teeth. All right, coming along. Feeling pretty good about that. Oh, let's do the eyes. I've been waiting. I feel like it needs, like, I was thinking of crab eyes. I was also thinking of just those, like, Dr. Seuss-y. Dr. Seuss would do these. Now, he probably, I'm guessing, I don't know. I'm guessing when he inked with a brush, and he did my favorite kind of eye, which is this, that weird eye, right? You know, so you'd have a character with an eye, and that would be, it would have that weird kind of horseshoe, which I suspect started out as an eyeball with a highlight, and then he would kind of color it in, like here's the eye, right? And then over time, he just learned to kind of shorthand it and just kind of do that for the eye. And it's so weird and it's so distinctly his. So I do use it from time to time, especially if I want to evoke that weird whimsical sense, which I do. And so that said, I'm going to try that eye on him, and let's see what we get. So there's his little Dr. Seuss eye. Here, I'll show you. Which I kind of dig. I think that could be kind of fun. I'm not sure I'll do them all with the brush, though. I feel like the tip of this thing is so frayed. It's like a mop at the end. It's an older brush. So I'm going to do it with the my Pilot's, my extra fine. That's what I want. Let me do his eyes, and then I think they all would be looking, oh yeah, much easier. I'm going to have them all looking at our hero helmet. And hey, if I don't like them, I can white them out and redraw them, or I can change them in the computer after I scan this thing. It's coming along. So he's got his eyes kind of coming along. Okay, so Dave Peterson, you're the best. Seuss drawing breakdown for the win. Thank you. Thank you, Dave. Thanks for tuning in. Klaus Castellan says, did I keep a lot of props from the Spiderwick film set? I did. I do have some. I don't have a lot, but I do have some pretty neat things. I think tomorrow, let's plan on a studio tour, and I'll show you a couple of the props that I have that I think you guys might find, fun. How's that sound, Klaus? If you tune in tomorrow, you can see some of the Spiderwick props that I have kept all these years. All right. Let me see. Renee wants to know if these guys blink. I don't know, Renee. I don't know. It's such a bizarre question if you think about it. Does the mushroom with eyes and a mouth blink? It's kind of frog-like. I'm guessing yes? Sure? I don't know. If you were telling the story, would it? I keep wanting to add more to these stalagmites. I'm going to look at the reference here really quick that I got via Google. Where's my reference? Here it is. They're kind of lumpy and clumpy. There is some texture on them. I just don't want to over texture mine. Hey, Ange is here.
Hey, what's up?
How you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing all right. I've just been drawing and chatting. I've been taking a couple of, I'll draw for a bit, then take a break and look up at the phone and answer a couple of questions. We're all thinking that tomorrow, let's plan on a studio tour.
Cool.
And we'll show off some Spiderwick props. We've had a request.
Cool.
Maybe if you guys want to see some of the old art that I've got here that I did or have collected, and I can show that to you, and we'll just hang out. It'll be another day hanging out.
Sounds good. Oh, what time? Tomorrow at 1 p.m.
1 p.m. every day.
Eastern Standard Time.
Every day. That's what we're doing. We're doing this until who knows? We're just going to keep going. I may take the weekend off, but otherwise, let's just keep doing it. You tune in, and I'll keep sharing. Angie, you were upstairs. I was kind of telling everybody that I just woke up this morning, even though I got a good night's sleep, and I kind of had shared that I hadn't been getting very good sleep. I know you haven't been getting good sleep either. That I was just anxious today for some reason more than I had been. I woke up that way.
I know.
You feeling it too?
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
And I also think I woke up, I looked at the headlines, I saw the number of cases went up more. I know more businesses are closing.
Yeah.
I received a message from a independent bookstore owner friend of ours, an amazing store, and you know she's nervous for her business. So I'm nervous for all those small business owners out there, for all the employees, for everybody who's home right now.
Yeah, it's exactly what I was saying, how I feel. It's making me, but we'll just.
This is what we know how to do, is just put some kind of excuse me, pockets. Oh no, I don't want to cough. Of a little sunshine out there.
You want a little water?
Okay.
You don't want my water. I started adding.
No, I'm just choking on my grilled cheese sandwich I just pounded.
Oh, that sounds good.
It was good.
I drew some eyes. We talked about Dr. Seuss. I gave him little Dr. Seuss little horseshoe eyes, which I kind of dig. I'm gonna draw this guy's eyes. I don't know if you can tell, Ange, but I did.
That's funny.
I did mess with the angle of the phone and its position. Hopefully it's a little
good.
It's a little better. Hopefully you guys can see a little. Ange has been good at like giving me feedback of, you know, how much you guys see, and I'm trying to be conscious of, I mean, I've done a few Facebook Lives before, but you know, I'm trying to be very conscious that you guys are entertained as much. So I will pause frequently and show you close-ups just as we move along, so you don't have to just look at the.
I'm also just snapping photos so everybody can see what I'm seeing right now.
Oh, cool. And Ange, if you want to field any questions, if they're coming through, or
Brett asked, how did we meet?
Oh, Brett, we need more than an hour to tell this story.
Well, I mean, it's not a long story. How we met is a friend of ours introduced us.
That's true. Yeah?
And he was like, Tony. Actually, he said to me, Ange, I know someone who has a twisted sense of humor as you do.
The same
twisted sense of humor.
Sense of humor that you have.
And we went on our first date to the zoo.
Yeah.
And followed up with a meal at Arby's.
Oh, yeah, with Arby's.
Some good game there, too. And that was 27 years ago.
Yeah, barbecue sauce for the win.
Oh, and a Jamocha shake.
Oh,
you sprung for that, honey.
I would go for a Jamocha shake right now.
Ashley Green says that her girls, who are 3 and 6 years old, love your book, The Broken Ornament.
Aww.
And they request it for bedtime pretty much every night. They said Tinsel is one of their favorite fairies. That is so sweet.
That is awesome, Ashley. Thank you.
I love that it's not even Christmas, and they still love it. Like, that's adorable.
I kind of wish it was Christmas now. I could feel.
Oh, my goodness.
Thank you. That's awesome. Tell them I said hi. Broken Ornament was... can I say... I don't know if fun is the right word. Usually these books, like I just finished Kenny and the Dragon 2. That was a fun, there was nothing about that process. It was work, but I just had such a great time from writing, inception, and finishing all the art. And I feel I really pushed myself to do some great art. The Broken Ornament, not so much. That was definitely a tougher book to do. It took me 2 years to do it. I think because I have such strong memories for Christmas, and I know the holidays are so important to so many people and their traditions. Everyone's traditions are different, and I really wanted to create a Christmas story that would get to the heart of what I felt Christmas could be about, and be a story that a kid would enjoy, that parents would enjoy reading. And oh my God, it's a tall order. It was a hard book. I'm not going to lie. I did an entire version of that book. There's 2 versions of it. And the first one got completely shelved. It was all the way to dummy. And I knew something was wrong with it, and I couldn't figure out what it was. And our pal Mo Willems took a look at it, and he was able to pinpoint it. It was essentially Ted.
He said, you wrote the perfect midlife crisis book.
He did, which is basically kind of what my book Ted was. And so it was back to the drawing board.
Aw, Dean Doggos is going to call his local indie store and pre-order the new Kenny and the Dragon.
Oh, well, thank you for that. Dude, the Dr. Seuss eyes on this guy, I love him. Just the way he's kind of looking down. And it doesn't look like he's angry. He looks a little scared maybe, but he looks definitely more, which I kind of dig.
Yeah, they don't look like The one guy on the right looks kind of funny. He's like,
Oh, this guy's real happy. He's
Yeah.
excited. He's like, ooh, human. We haven't had one of those in a while. Not to eat, but to, he wants to know what's going on in the world above.
Are they glowy? I feel like they'd be glowy in those cases.
A little bioluminescent.
Yeah.
Or just so fair-skinned
Yeah,
that
kind of weird, pale, greeny, glowy.
mushroom skin. Kind of like what I look like when I take my shirt off at the beach in Florida.
Let's see.
We're coming along, Ange. It's getting there. I'm going to work on the little lantern. Put a little bolt.
Do you have any plans of doing a Spiderwick style guide to the Wondla series? Also, hi from Phoenix James.
Oh, wow. That's, well, thank you. Little known fact, we planned on doing a Spiderwick style guide for Wondla. But we, unlike Spiderwick, which was selling millions of copies by the time I did the field guide, Wondla just didn't sell that way. Wondla sells well, but it sells in a different way. This is getting into the nuts and bolts of book selling, but a $25 retail book that's an accessory, for the lack of a better word, for another book is you really want a really strong built-in audience, which by the time I finished the third Wondla book, we didn't have in the numbers that we thought we could sell a big lavish field guide to Urbana.
I also feel like Spiderwick was a little bit younger, so to have this kind of lavish illustrated book paired with the timing in publishing, you had books like Dragonology.
Yep.
Harry Potter was doing kind of a field guide at that time to, the Harry Potter world.
Yep.
Those types of big $25 kind of
With
books,
the ribbon bookmark and
Yep.
the gatefold pages.
Those were a thing that people were like, oh yeah, we're going to plunk down money for that.
Yeah.
But, Wondla, years later, the market had already changed.
Yes.
Not to say, maybe
Who knows?
happened and you never know. You could
Return to that thought. Yes, I agree. It's not over yet, but you never know.
Let's see. Hi, David Howe.
Oh, I would say the last thing on that, just before we move on to the next question, is also Spiderwick talked about, like, the field guide was essential. Not essential, but
He was in the plot.
it was a part of the story. So it was the MacGuffin. So to release it made more sense than to release a field guide to Wondla.
Well, I guess you just gotta make omnipods.
I gotta make omnipods. We need omnipods now more than ever.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so I'm putting a little bit now. Actually, Angela, because of the lantern light, the shadow on this staff would be probably almost like silhouette here on the edges, the extremes away from the lantern.
Let's see. David Howe says,
Hey, David Howe.
when you're working on a book, are you working on other side projects, or do you focus all your time and energy on one project?
A very good question, and I suspect, David Howe, that if you asked 10 different author illustrators, you'd get 10 different answers. Mine is I'm always thinking of other projects. I will sometimes play hooky on the current project and go work on another project. It always seems so much more alluring when I'm under a deadline for the existing thing, even though the existing thing was once the hooky project to the book before. I can plan. I will make notes. I will think and jot and sketch, but that's about the extent of it. I really do. And Ange can vouch for this. When I'm full blown into whatever book project I'm on, it occupies pretty much all of my bandwidth.
I feel like, yeah.
Especially in the final stages.
I was going to say, at different places in the process. Like right now, you're sketching on something new, on a new project.
Yes.
But you also have other things going that require your attention. Some
Yes.
that we're not able to share yet.
Yes.
They're very exciting.
Yes.
And then you have another little something that you're working on the side too.
Yeah. Well, I've been slowly putting together a
None of those
sketchbook.
are like you doing paintings on a 32-page picture book, right?
Right. So yeah, so definitely like when I was, well, I'll give you guys an example. So we hadn't announced Kenny and the Dragon 2 until, geez, like a month ago. So last fall, I would sketch for a while in the morning, and then I would do an Inktober piece that afternoon. So I was definitely, and I mean, let's be honest, by the time I had done the 30 Inktober pieces, that's a book,
Yeah.
you know? And I'd always wanted to participate in that. I've always loved watching some of my friends and learning about new artists that I didn't know. So it was something I had long wanted to do. But in the end, it was definitely almost like doing 2 books at once. Because I'm sketching, I was sketching one and inking essentially for another.
Yeah. I mean, you could have illustrated the interiors for a book. And
I could have illustrated the interiors. Well, the new Kenny book has 70 illustrations. But I mean, yeah, I would have taken a chunk out of it, right? Now, granted, when I'm doing the illustrations for a book, it is a little different than like what I'm doing right now, which is essentially what an Inktober. This would be a fairly involved Inktober piece for me. But I did do some of them.
I mean, you did most of those pieces. You could do them within a day. Or even when we're on like vacation or during the summer, you'll do a drawing, like a pen and ink drawing. In the morning.
Yeah. Like the one year I did the life and the times of Tony D in the 80s kind of thing and stuff like that. Oh, I see. So I'm thinking of this lantern, and it's going to cast all these cool shadows, these long kind of shadows off the...
So to that question, Lisa wants to know, have you always worked this way? Hopping around... Oh, sorry, it's popped up here. The drawing from one part to another, or do you ever focus on a small section at a time? And if so, do you train yourself to have to work this way?
No, it's a little bit of my brain. I don't think about it much, Lisa, at this point, because I mean I'm 50 years old. I've been drawing almost 50 years, so a lot of it now is instinct and stuff. But I am doing 2 things at once with my brain. I'm zooming in on an area and really finishing it, but then I'm stopping and looking at the whole and then making adjustments, and then I'm zooming back in on another area and doing details. Then so the brain keeps going in and out, because what happens is if I worked in isolation just on him and really went to town, but ignored everything else that's going on, it's a lot harder to make the piece work. I don't even know if this piece fully works yet. We'll know soon, because I'm going to erase everything, and then we're gonna see. But I want to finish a little more inking before we get there.
Shadow and light, right?
It's all shadow and light.
All shadow and light.
Which is why I haven't brought these darks up in the cave behind them all the way to 100% yet. I'm holding. It's like a holding spot. They'll get darker.
Can you nudge it to the right just a little bit? The piece to the right.
Oh, sorry, guys.
Perfect. Thank you.
Let me move my tape guide. There we go. So I know.
Thank you.
The phone might have got nudged. All right, so I'm going to do this, guys.
What's your favorite D&D class race to draw and play?
Ooh, well, I'll draw pretty much anything.
Well, first of all, you're the DM.
And yeah, when we play, I'm the DM. When I have played a character in the past, I generally play thiefy types, rogues, scallywags.
People with annoying voices.
I always do an annoying voice.
What's that one? What's his name?
Oh, there's Redcap.
Yes.
Redcap, Robin Redcap?
No.
Redcap, Robin. Oh, what's his name? I can't believe I don't think of it. He's like a gnome thief. He's maybe 4th or 5th level, but he thinks all humans are idiots. So when he sees them, and he's encountered them multiple times in adventures, and he's like, idiots! You're all idiots! Which I think is endearing, but they can't stand him. I think somebody actually went to attack him at one point, didn't they?
Oh, yeah.
Somebody wanted to hit him.
Yeah.
And then they
regretted play a fighter. I'm almost also.
Yeah,
I'm a dwarf.
You're a
currently
dwarf.
A female dwarf fighter.
Pretty high level, too.
You wouldn't really know as a female because, dwarfs, hard to tell the difference between the males and the females.
Yeah, so you say. I think we're getting close.
What's the thing on the ground between the dwarf's feet?
That?
Beard.
That's his beard.
I feel like...
Is it not connecting?
It's not... I have not...
Felt the beard?
Felt the beard there.
We may have to white out the beard. Maybe just bring the beard to a point right here. You know what I mean? Like, get rid of it.
Or maybe it would have come out to the left or something. Like, but not between, I don't know.
Maybe not between the legs. Maybe it should have come, like, next to us.
I think the movement looks, the shape is too tail-like.
It does look kind of tail-like. I won't disagree. Maybe also it could have been, I'm going to switch to pencil. Maybe it should have been more these kind of hairs. So it felt more like a beard.
It still feels, it's
or a braid.
tail.
He could have braided it.
But it's the tail. It's where it's located.
The weird tail shape.
It's weird.
Well.
Maybe it would have gone in front of that right foot.
Yeah, or you know, the other foot's here, and it, you know, it goes over here to the side. Yeah,
that's what I'm saying, to the right of that foot. I think would have been...
Yeah, this is the great thing about a pen and ink thing, is you can do all this kind of pencil work and kind of figure stuff out, and then you just erase it. You can see yesterday here, I was thinking of the scabbard, kind of, I had, there's where I had it penciled, and I ended up putting it up here, which I'm still not sure. I'm going to have to put some highlighter in here, because now you're like, what is that thing sticking out? With the cave behind him.
Patrick Curtin asks, did you ever consider the graphic novel format for your work?
Oh, well, little known fact,
Good question.
When I came out of school, art school, I actually studied under Will Eisner and for sequential work. And I did a little bit of sequential work for White Wolf Games very early in my career, and it's terrible. Do not go find it. Don't get excited. It's not that exciting. It's really bad. Legacy Right.
Do not Google that.
Do not. I'm not cut out for it. I'm more, and I get why, because I love spending time on a scene like this. And at least from what I learned from Will Eisner, it's not about the panel art. The panel is just a little component for the whole. It's all about creating almost that visual shorthand that moves the viewer through, the reader through the panels, and it's hard for me to do that. So I've tried it. It's not. I admire it greatly. I have friends who are incredible sequential storytellers.
Don't Google it, Brennan Power.
Don't even bother, dude. You're just gonna. My star.
There's a lot of airbrush.
There's a lot of airbrush. I was very influenced by Frank Miller's Dark Knight, and it's just all out. Not that great. You'll be depressed. It's not worth it. I tried to redeem myself. Well, I do remember what happened. I feel like the first couple of pages were passable. But what happened was
very blue, wasn't it?
A lot of blue. I remember what happened now was White Wolf had asked me to do it. I didn't have a whole lot of work. And then Planescape then happened right at the same time. Do you remember that, Ange? And then all of a sudden I had too much work and not enough time to do both. And
the late nights,
oof,
the all-nighters. It was crazy.
It was bad.
But I love what Will Eisner told you.
That I'm an illustrator, not a... Yeah.
He was like, no.
You're more an illustrator. You're an illustrator. I really respect him for that. I mean, I could have been like, I'm going to prove you wrong. And maybe I could have, but in my heart, he was right.
Well, the funny thing was, so he asked you to bring in comics of artists that you liked, right?
Yes, he wanted us to bring in three comic book artists that we admired. And then he proceeded to tear most of them apart. Went to these students who were like, I'm really into like Todd McFarlane, and he was like, this guy's terrible, and let me show you why. Even though Todd McFarlane was selling gazillions. But he thought
Frank Miller was awesome.
He loved Frank Miller. My three were Art Adams, Frank Miller, and Jean-Giraud Mobius. He loved Mobius. He loved Frank Miller. He thought Art Adams it was a lot of talking heads. Look, they're just heads talking. Where's the action? Where's the acting? And I thought, yeah, but he draws them so well. That's the thing I learned, actually. I learned a lot about getting characters to act, which was very important to me and still is to this day. And I learned a lot of that in his class.
Mary Lucius Hamer, hopefully I'm pronouncing that correctly. She said, I read Spiderwick to my second graders each year, and they are all obsessed. Do you sell Spiderwick prints? I'd love to purchase one for our library.
We do sell Spiderwick prints. If you go to my website, there's a link for a shop, And Noble Knight Games has some Spiderwick prints there, or we can post it in the comment section. Andrew, I think I gotta erase now. I gotta get rid of some of this pencil line so I can kind of see what's actually going on. This is something I've been waiting. I love
this part.
It's gonna take on a whole new look. I'm gonna hit it with the air dryer just if there's any loose little puddles of ink. This is hopefully gonna dry them out so they don't smear. I'm testing, you can see where I just inked. If these guys smear, I know. If I could smear it with my finger, for sure an eraser is gonna smear it. But I think we'll have a better sense of what this darn thing looks like. Now I use gum erasers. Let me show you one in a package. Or not gum erasers, kneaded erasers. I'm sorry, I was looking at a gum eraser. I use kneaded erasers. You can get them Michael's, probably even at Staples. They go through varying stages of wear as they absorb more and more graphite and ink. So you can see this one's been used quite a bit. This one's been used a lot a bit. And they eventually have to get chucked, Ange. They end up just smearing.
Yeah, because they're holding so much
graphite and ink. But it is one of my favorite steps. And to give you an idea, hopefully you'll be able to see here as I start. I usually start from one side and work my way.
Hi, Lauren Zurchin.
Hey, Lauren Zurchin, how are you?
How you doing? Lauren Zurchin, amazing photographer.
Yes,
took a great portrait.
Friend of all our feathered friends.
That's right. Took a great portrait of T and took our family portrait a few years back.
Oh yeah, for a holiday card.
Yeah,
that's right. Yeah, that was
awesome.
awesome. It's one of my favorite holiday cards, and I've drawn a bunch, and I still love that one. Oh, Lauren, I hope you're doing well and faring well and healthy and safe, and everybody.
Ooh, hold it up and show what happens in the section you're erasing. Can you do
Yeah, I'm going to do like a, let me do part of the, I'm going to run a line here. Just. I got to run. So you can kind of get a sense so you can see, first of all, how much dirt and smudging is going on, but then you can kind of see how clean the lines start looking, especially on his eye. Hold on, let me clean his eye up a little bit more. There's a little tangent on his eye stalk and his eye I got to fix. For some reason, I'm looking at that eye above all of those.
That stalagmite right crashing into his eyeball?
No, right?
Does that bug you or no?
No, let me show you. Right. So for some reason, out of all their eyes, I keep looking at this eye. I think because it's not just popping off the top. I am looking at that eye a lot too. But there's a little line right there. Do you see that? It's driving me nuts. It looks like a mistake, so I'll fix that.
This one's weird. Like this little bar going right into that
is also weird. Well, we could
maybe just
or I can just put some shading. Yeah. So this is how this starts to work then. After I can erase, I can actually figure out where the next layer of cross-hatching can go. And I'm not committed because if I don't like it, I just erase it back out. And this actually has led to using the pencil for a lot of shading on these too. Like for instance, the piece I did for Inktober last year has quite a bit of pencil shading on it. So this is using the brush pen that you guys just saw. Actually might be a Sharpie. And then there's also some pencil shading on it as well. All right, so let's see. We're close. We're getting close. We're gonna go overtime a little bit today, but I'm willing to do it if you guys are willing to hang out so that we can see.
The dude on the right. Will you shade him more so he gets...
I'll tell you in a minute.
Okay.
I got to see how everything's looking. Now, I purposely didn't shade his horn. I'm glad I didn't. I think if I had shaded it, it just would have turned into a jumble of...
Agreed.
Which it probably is a jumble in real life, but... And we'll figure out the beard situation here momentarily. We're close.
Karen Higgins Hutchinson says, looking good, T.
Thank you, Karen Higgins Hutchinson. Hope you and your family are doing well and staying safe.
Yeah, if you guys have any questions, T will be sure to answer them. We can moderate.
Or make up answers.
That's right.
If you need me to. All right, I'm going to switch. That was the worn out one. This is the next one. So this should hopefully lift up a little more. I need it first, kind of like just to get it fresh and ready to absorb. And it's taken off another layer. You can really see it here. And if I need to use something heavier, I can. It won't get, if anything that's really heavy, like you can see the ghost of the scabbard that I put in yesterday. Like it's not getting all of that. I can use a heavier eraser for that. But keep this in mind, fellow artists. The more erasing you do, the more you're literally scrubbing the paper. You're lifting, it's the way the eraser works. It isn't just lifting up the graphite, it's also scrubbing away a layer off the paper. So the heavier the eraser, the more scrubbing you're doing. So I can get this out. I'm using now like a plastic eraser.
Chris Steinman said you just erase those correction pencil lines.
Yeah, but I know where they are. Yeah. You talking about right over here under his beard? Yeah.
That's what I'm thinking.
Yeah, we'll get.
And you know you're gonna you'll go in with
whiteout.
Whiteout. And it's so cool. We've seen a lot of original pen and inks, originals from Arthur Rackham and Garth Williams.
My big one was so Charles Dana Gibson, who did the Gibson Girl at the turn of the century, one of the masters of pen and ink. Not only would there be huge, as time goes by and the paper yellows and becomes yellow, the whiteout becomes very clear. You can really see it because it doesn't yellow.
Yeah.
So his were covered in patches of whiteout and then patches of paper where he literally was like, that face doesn't work. I'm going to cut out a piece of paper, glue it down and redraw it. So I always, once I saw that, I felt a lot better about my skills, that it's really about the final printed thing, or for you, the final scan that I'll post on Facebook or whatever to see. And then you're like, wow, it looks so perfect. And yet you're not seeing all the whiteout.
Or you would even scan it in and make changes digitally.
It's so much easier to make the changes digitally, but I try to preserve the, I try to get the original as close as I can. And how do I make some of those changes? Well, there's a couple of ways. I use a fairly heavy, if I need to brush, I use a heavy gloss enamel. You can't really draw over this. They may be a flat version of this. I've used gesso and I've used flat acrylic paint so I can draw over it. But if I just need to white out and not draw over it, this works great. And I'll use a brush. Mo Willems turned me on to this. It's a Bic Whiteout pen. I have a bunch of them. This I love because it's essentially the same thing. Now you have to warm it up. It always takes a while to get the ink flowing. There it goes. You have to get a little squeeze.
Can you, I'm just curious, show that, like a little sample of that close up too when you're...
Well, I'm gonna do a couple of things with it here. One, okay, so just to give you how my brain works, the little nodules right there, there's too much shadow. It's pulling your eye there and I don't want it to pull your eye there. So I'm just gonna white out some of it.
Oh yeah, I see that.
There. See that? Now the density is... It's not as heavy now. It's not pulling your eye to it. Here, this was driving me crazy. Okay, so here's the mushrooms. I want the little edge of the bag to catch the light. And some of the mushrooms I want to read a little better. So I'm going to go in. Now I can also draw in, and then I can also remove if I need, or draw back on top of it if I need to, if I've overdone it with the whiteout edge, I can go back in and kind of...
Angel Shandy said, I never really knew that was a thing, using whiteout with pen and ink. I do ink drawings primarily and had no idea professional artists did that. How freeing.
Oh, God, yeah, dude. Go nuts. Seriously.
Mike Roy is watching.
Mike Roy, how you doing, brother? I hope you're doing well.
Earlier, people asked how T and I met.
That guy's the culprit. Blame him.
Solely responsible for this matchmaking.
Most powerful dungeon master in Palm Beach County. I hope you like him, Mike. Okay, here's another big mess. The scabbard here is kind of blending into the cave. I'm not quite sure, so I'm going to put a little highlight on it, Ange, just to break it.
Mark Hodge said that he noticed all the corrections when he saw John Bauer's originals.
Oh, that's good. I've never seen any of John Bauer's originals, but I feel comforted knowing that. Although, like I said, I've seen him on Rackham, I've seen him on Garth Williams, and I've seen him on...
Dana Gibson.
Definitely the Charles Dana Gibson ones were the most... Because he's such an incredible ink master. To be able to see that really made me happy. Now it's busy. It feels a little busy, right, Ange? So now I'm gonna calm it down. How am I gonna do that? These blacks are gonna start getting a little denser. So I'm gonna do that by cross-hatching. I'm gonna start, so the simple thing is that cross-hatching works by eliminating the white. So the white of the paper is showing through. Let me show what I mean. So here's the sketch here. I'm going to draw, let me get this.
Show your restaurant too.
Yeah, right. But I want to show how it works. I'm going to draw a little box. I hope you can see, everyone can see this, right? So this is a white box.
You changed pens there.
Oh yeah, I'm using my brush pen that I was using earlier. So now it's a little darker, right? Because I'm eliminating the white. It just got darker. Now I'm going to change angles. And each swipe, each patch of hatching makes it get darker and darker. And the reason it's getting darker is because I'm filling in the white more and more. It's not about coloring, because the delight is that you have... Now I'm going to go rando, which I do all the time. But you get these little flecks of light. And that's, to me, what makes it very rich, very interesting. So there you go. Cross-hatching 101. All right? Here, I've held off on any massive amount of cross-hatching in the back because I wanted to see how everything looked. Now I'm going to go in and start pumping up the cross-hatching. I'm going to use the angle of what the light beams would be doing as kind of my point of reference. There's no logic to it. I'm sure there are cross-hatching artists that probably have certain ways they do it. I've done it where I contour hatch, where I'm kind of running the line along the contour of the thing. I've done it very flat, like Maurice Sendak does. There's all different ways of doing it. It's really what works for you and what achieves the look you were going for. So you can get a sense. Here you go. Here's before. Here's after, where I'm doing it. See how rich it's getting? And also, his shape is so defined right now, right? Let's do it on the top. Now, what I'm thinking, Ange, is here, though, where the beam would be the closest, I'm actually not going to go all the way in.
You're going to open it because there would be more light.
There's going to be more light. In fact, I may go in with the whiteout and actually break it the other way and put some white strokes in there. Maybe.
Almost create beams.
Little beams, yeah. Little... And you can see it's not a full line. I'm doing little strokes. I'm filling things in along the way. It's very sketchy because, frankly, that's how I work.
Just tell me on this pen. So this pen is...
This is a Pigma Brush Pen. I was showing it off earlier. It used to have a very fine tip to it, but I've worn it down, Ange. It's kind of a frayed brush pen. I'm barely present. Almost the weight of the pen itself is what's causing this line. It's not me. All I'm doing is moving it, if that makes any sense. You know mushrooms love classical music, by the way. It's
like a little harpsichord.
Little harpsichord. Very Mozart. Look at that. Now you can really see our guy. I'm going to bring it up here.
All about, you're kind of directing focus of where you want your eye to go.
Those strokes definitely do that, Ange. They do create kind of directional pointers. No different than the throne in the Game of Thrones,
or in the swords.
Or Knives Out when he had that thing with all the knives pointing at people. You know, it's definitely this is it on a much more subtle level, but yes.
Craig Austin says Spore Symphony in D minor.
Yes, that's
D
definitely
minor. M-I-N-E-R. Get it? Good one.
Oh, nice. Did he say that? Mm-hmm. Or did you add the minor?
No, he did.
Nice. Well played.
Usually, I'm impressed. That's a good one.
That's pretty good.
Hey, Jonathan Corman.
Jonathan Corman, I hope you're doing well. Nice to hear from you.
Hope all's going well with you.
And your family.
Are staying healthy.
Mushroom people.
Nice.
See how that adds just a little more depth.
Just a happy little line.
It's very Bob Ross moment. Look at that. It's like it really brought it together. And now, watch this. Now I'm gonna add another, but I'm not gonna do it everywhere, Ange. I'm just gonna do it. I'm just gonna do it around our hero.
Darken it up even more?
I'm going to darken it up even more. I'm going to create a little more contrast. These darks are going to be just around him. I want him just pointing toward
It's like editing. It's like what's essential to the storytelling. It's like you're...
Listen, and there's plenty of amazing pen and ink artists that would go and say, well, you could do this and you could do that. And they could be right. I'm just doing what I think works for me.
Tanya Beach.
Hey, Tanya. Hope you guys are doing well.
Yeah. Say hi to the girls for us.
Yes, very talented. Adding a little more dark blacks here. Some nice, solid blacks.
Anthony Merriman wants to know, how long does it take you to complete a piece like this?
Well, if you've been tuning in, you've seen it from inception to just about completion, because we're almost done.
So it's been what?
We've done an hour a day for 4 days. I mean, it's going a little slower because I'm yammering and talking. And I did not forget about...
Oh, yes.
That sleeve is one of the first things I inked, and you're like, you have a tangent problem where the elbow...
Right, the line is shared between the roll and the elbow, and now Tony is...
Yeah, the roll was originally kissing the elbow, and that's called a tangent. You try to avoid that. You want overlap. So I just whited it out. And now I'm going to re-ink on top of it. It should be dry-ish. Get it dry.
Oh, Gage Menard. Nothing beats watching one of your biggest inspirations draw, especially at a time like this.
Oh, thanks, Gage. It is my pleasure to draw for you all. I've been thinking about everybody and how anxious everybody must be feeling. And... as I said earlier, I've been thinking about as much as people probably are enjoying time at home and with their family, it's still scary because a lot of people aren't working.
Kids are home.
Kids are home. They're not with their friends playing and stuff. It's a very anxious time, but we'll get through it. I promise.
Hi, Lauren Long.
Lauren Long, what's up, brother? All right, I'm going to try to do some beams. Ange, this may work. This may look terrible.
You did this on another piece before, I feel like, with the beams.
I'm digging it.
I dig it a lot.
Here's what I'm liking. This is what Bob Ross would call
cool.
a happy accident. The pen is, first of all, I don't know if you can see it, there's a giant booger of ink on it. It's glopped with ink. You can see that right there. So when I went to do the beams, it skipped and bumped. So you got this great fragmentation of the line. Oh my gosh,
that looks so cool. Wait till you guys see it close up. You'll dig it. Oh.
I'm actually going to, look at that. I don't want to go too nuts, but...
Hey, Eddie, glad we could be distracting you while you quote-unquote work.
There you go. I even just stippled a little. Look at that. It's kind of fun, right? I'm digging that.
That's cool.
You like that, huh? See? That wasn't part of the plan. That was just that just happened, Ange. That just happened. I'm going to lighten that line a little bit.
I think that too.
I'm going to lighten that line. It's nice when that happens, right?
Yes.
What else needs to be...
Do you ever draw scenes from books you read?
Like, I got to tell you, I've been thinking about this, Ange. Kind of feel like I want to draw a Harry Potter drawing for Soph.
I was thinking that the other day.
I've never drawn any of the Harry Potter characters.
Dude, you gotta draw Hagrid.
I just think Soph would get a kick out of that.
Oh yeah.
She's
We're deep in Harry Potter. We're escaping to, as we call it, the realms. The realms of fantasy.
Of Hogwarts.
Right now, which are the, all the worlds of fantasy. We've been deep in watching the Harry Potter movies every night. We started digging into the books.
Yeah, we've been listening to
We went to Harry Potter World.
We were in let's be honest. We were in Harry Potter World last week, actually. Yeah. We had a friend who works there. He got us tickets. We were so excited. It was our spring break. We were watching the news. We weren't sure what to do. We said at that point, there were hardly any cases in Florida, even though we knew it was a high traffic area. And there were, to the park's credit, there were Purell stations everywhere. We were diligent about keeping ourselves clean, but we definitely cut the trip short because we started seeing everything develop and started getting a little worried. So, but it was, I'm not going to lie, it was really awesome to be on Diagon Alley for a day, knowing what the news was in the world beyond, just to have a day off.
Hey, LaSonia. It's good to see you, friend. Hope everything's going
well. Oh, hey, LaSonia. Hope you're doing good. Long time no see. Hope you're well. I'm just doing a little bit of shade on this hand.
Yes, I think you should totally draw Harry Potter stuff.
You think so?
He's super cool.
Oh, that hand needed it. That added a lot of nice depth to it. So now that the darkest darks are in, I can start going in now and I just do a lot of fine tuning, Ange. I go around and I just kind of move around and I'll switch between pens. I'm not sure on the beard. I'm going to play with it. I you know what, honestly, I may do is I may just scan it and kind of figure it out in Photoshop and then come back over here and draw it.
You got to almost try it.
A couple different ways.
Like in front of his feet.
Yeah.
You even see it.
Yeah.
Would it go?
Yeah. Would it be here? It's like it's like when you go to see your eye doctor and he, tries the lenses. Is this better? Is this better? Is this better? And that's kind of almost what I feel like I need to do with that.
Yeah.
Just to kind of.
Honestly, even if you got rid of it completely.
The beard? Yeah, that's definitely a thought. And just either you never see it, or you just see a little tuft, like a little bit of tuft right there, and then you just get that other foot. And that'd be an easy fix. That's a real easy fix. Oh, I forgot to fix the thing with his eye. Let me get in there.
You could put a mushroom over to the right.
Look at that. That was like scratching an itch. That was that one weird line coming off his eye. It was driving me crazy. Like a splinter. I needed to pick it out. Where was I here?
Peterson, can I share my Hogwarts RPG rules and notes with you guys since you're a gaming family?
We are a gaming family.
The funny thing is, I don't think we would play it in the world.
Yeah, I don't want to be. I just like watching the movies because we had a Harry Potter board game. We played it for a little bit and then we got bored.
Lame.
We got bored.
It had the board that flipped over and stuff.
That was pretty ingenious.
Yeah, that was pretty cool. CF Payne's watching.
Oh, hi, Chris. I hope you're doing well.
It's like Amazing Illustrators Visiting Day.
We should talk about some of the other illustrators that have been doing live drawings every day as well. A lot of my friends in the children's book realm, Jarek J. Krzaska has been drawing. I think he draws the same time I do. But I think he's banking them all on YouTube, so you can.
He's at 2, I think.
Oh, okay.
I think he's at 2. And
Mo Willems is definitely drawing. He's drawing. Maybe he's doing it at the same time.
Yeah, but I think he changed that today. But a lot of people are doing some really cool activities. Like Dan Santat is just doing some cool activities and exercises that you can do with your kids.
Yeah. Really inventive stuff.
Yeah, and a lot of children's book authors and illustrators are either drawing or doing story times. I know T, you and I were talking about doing story time from the library, which would be fun.
Yeah, I think we should record some. I think tomorrow though. If you guys just throw a note in the comments. But I'm thinking like let's do a studio tour tomorrow. I can clean the studio up tonight, get it a little more presentable, and then we can kind of go. Someone had asked earlier about Spiderwick film props, which we could show off. And let's just.
You guys want to see? Let us know.
Yeah, put it in the comments. We'll take a look, and then even I'm almost thinking, Ann, just while we're walking around, while I'm kind of either you can hold the phone and I'll kind of narrate, like a host.
Yep.
And as you're looking at the phone, our friends can be like, "Hey, what's in that drawer to the left?"
Yeah.
So you guys can actually tell us.
It'll be like choose your own adventure.
Then tell me where to go,
in
like
studio.
in the studio. You'd be like, "Hey, go check that out. How does that work?" And we'll do our best, and we'll show off some art and some books and stuff. I'm gonna call it a day on the inking. I feel like there is a point where you over ink it, and I feel like I'm right on the verge. So I don't want to ink anymore. I am gonna go back to where we started, which is. The number 2 pencil. I'm going to let this one go to 90 minutes because we're so close, Ange, to finishing. So I'm going to sharpen this guy up with a handy dandy handheld sharpener. Somebody had asked about these pencils. They're number 2 Ticonderogas. You can buy them Staples. You can buy them anywhere. The cap erasers, they're just these. I mean, that there's nothing special. You saw my special erasers. I used them already.
You can find all of these things exclusively at Office Depot.
Yeah, Office Depot, Staples. I'm going to do a little bit of shady, especially on his nose. This is kind of like my thing now. I've been enjoying kind of putting a little bit of pencil shading on it. I just feel like it adds a nice next level.
Dave Peterson said he'll be streaming over on Twitch.
Oh, Dave Peterson is
45 minutes.
Oh, if you guys aren't familiar, we love Dave Peterson's graphic novel, Mouse Guard. He's a terrific sequential artist. Unlike me, he is one of a great sequential storyteller. Not just an artist, a storyteller as well. Mouse Guard's a terrific book. We all love him. We've read a bunch of his stories here. And also a fan of Dungeons and Dragons and Harry Potter and all the things. All things from the realms. From the realms. I could have done this right here. I could be doing this in ink, but there's something kind of soft about the pencil that I dig. And I'm looking at the one I did last year, and I really went to town kind of filling him in pencil. I kind of like that. I think I'm going to do it here too, just because, again, if I don't like it, I can just erase it, Ange. But I feel like if I start to kind of make him kind of a solid shape, I think it's going to...
leaving some of your lights, right?
Yeah, and leaving some of the lights on.
Your horn?
Yeah, I'm going to leave part of the horn. And definitely like here, the mug. Yeah, I'm not touching the face. No, I'm not. I if anything, I'm going to put that little soft line around the hair, and that's it. Like, I'm not going to go any there. I feel like a little bit on the staff.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Just a little, not much. Maybe here. Now, man, for some people, this could be a Copic marker. This could be done in the computer.
Hey,
you could.
Cher Willems.
Oh, hey, Cher, how are you? We were just directing people towards Mo's drawing. I hope you guys are doing well. And put a little more shading here. Yeah, I feel like he reads better. And this actually goes all the way back to when we were first sketching him out, and I kind of saw him as just this big, solid shape. And as for the now, there are times when I've gone in and really shaded it like I'm doing right now and go, you know what, I can do that in pen, and I'll erase it and just go in and do it in pen. But for now, I'm going to leave it in pencil. I kind of like that look.
The Forager.
The Forager, you named it, Ange. I think that's a great title for it. I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to scan it in this afternoon. I'll post a nice, juicy, high-res version for you guys to look at. You'll be able to see it up close. You can examine it. Because I know sometimes these streaming the resolution can be kind of pixely. Doesn't really come out as great as we'd like it to be. But I think I'm kind of done. I don't think there's...
thinking, you could have done this entire thing without speaking at all. It would have been just post it as ASMR, just your pencil.
Oh, yeah. Here, let's do an ASMR moment. Hold on. I'm just penciling right here. Just a little bit of pencil. Shh, don't talk too loud. I'm just putting it's a little shading right here. You hear that? Just so peaceful. Entire world is sick, but here we're just penciling. It's gonna be okay. Okay. There was our ASMR moment for those of you who needed that. Sometimes we need it.
Yeah, it's true.
Oh yeah, I like that. Just a little bit of shading on their mushroomy heads. And I think we call this one... Oh, I like that. Hold on. I was just about to say it's done. This is always what happens. I kind
of... let's see. Do you feel that your kids are more imaginative and open to new ideas because they have artistic parents? We have one daughter who's almost 13.
Yep.
And she's super creative.
She's super creative.
She's a super crafter.
She built an entire... fort called the Bubble Hut, which you will see in my studio tomorrow. That she's been... It's
a cardboard fortress.
Painted.
Has
curtains.
Googly eyes, curtains.
She is. She's very creative. It is her normal though. She's always known it.
She's not a kid who says I'm bored.
Well, she definitely has. She's definitely having issues having stay put. She's a very outdoorsy kid.
No,
so
but I'm just saying in general, she's not that kid that's like, I'm bored. Like,
no.
She'll go and craft. She'll make stuff.
Yeah, she definitely... I've tried to lure her to let's sit down and draw together. She doesn't always want to do that, but she will sit down next to me and sit on the floor and draw, which I'll take what I can get. It's not the, let's sit at the kitchen table and... Although we did that for when she had art class last year, she and I were kind of sitting there and we would draw the various things.
But even though she might not be like, oh, I want to draw all the time. She's making stuff a lot. She's painting down here. She makes clothes for the dogs.
She makes a lot of
She'll
watch something on and she'll watch like a thing on YouTube and then go, oh, I want to try that. So she did that. She was big into the slimes and was doing that with the slimes for a while. And the clothes for the dogs, and various little jewelries and necklaces she'll make. Okay.
You just made soap.
You guys did just make soap.
Which was perfect timing.
So my last thing before we go, all these little dots, I feel like I need to get rid of them because none of these have them, and I think they read better. So this is going to be my last. The little dots. Oh, on
inside,
the caps. Yeah. I think you don't need it. I think you can simplify it. So I'm going to do that, and then I'm going to do, if you've ever wondered if I am a superstitious person, you're going to find out there is one thing I have not done yet, and I always do it at the very end, when I feel the piece is pretty much done, and that's sign the piece. I won't sign the piece early. I don't know where I'm going to sign the piece. I usually look for an obscure little area. I don't want it to be obtrusive. Today is, what day is it, 17th or 18th?
It's the 19th.
Yes, 19th in the bunker. So this one was called, what was it called? Forager?
The bunker?
The Forager?
Yeah, the Forager. The Forager.
3/19/20. I feel like the signature should be right here. That's it. We finished this. And we did it from start to finish. Here's a very quick recap for those who are tuning in. On Monday, we were drawing things inspired from my work 30 years ago, nearly 30 years ago in the Monsters Manual, Dungeons and Dragons. There was a mushroom guy in there I'd drawn. We decided to revisit this mushroom guy. Ange found a photo of a puffball mushroom, which we thought was hilarious. So we decided to designed this little mushroom guy, which we thought was pretty interesting. On Tuesday, we came up with this sketch after we explored a number of very simple scenarios of our dwarf hero interacting with the mushrooms. And this was the one ultimately that we liked, and we came up with this. I then scanned, what you didn't see is I scanned this in and did a very slight cleanup. One of the big things, let's compare. So I moved his staff a little bit. You can see that. I think I moved his head a little bit. I shrunk his head a little bit from the original sketch. Very tiny, nothing too major. And then we traced it onto the board you see here, which I inked over the course of yesterday and today. And we found all kinds of reference. We learned what mycelium were, which are the rooty things that mushrooms have. That became very inspirational for the mushroom's hands. Show them your hands, mushroom. We learned what a drinking horn is. This guy showed us that it's filled with ale and spirits. And so thanks to one of our inventive fans, we put a drinking horn on Helmet's backpack. We learned that backpacks did not exist in medieval times. When I went to go find reference, that during the 15th and 16th century, there were no backpacks. Would have been probably some kind of basket or just wrapped in a blanket with some rope. So every game that has a backpack, is incorrect because backpacks came into fashion at the turn of the century. We also learned what a stalagmite and a stalactite is. Tight at the top. These are stalactites. These are stalagmites. In the photo reference that I found, now I don't know if this is an absolute rule or not, the stalagmites tend to be very lumpy and like a column because there's water dripping from the top onto them, forming the stalagmites. And the stalactites tend to be very thin and drippy because the water is running down. We echoed that here. So we did this. Any spelunkers who look at this art, which is highly unlikely, will see that my stalactites are very drippy and my stalagmites are very lumpy and clumpy. The Forager is done. Thank you guys for tuning in. Tomorrow we will do a studio tour. I show off my studio and all the junk and hoarding that I've done over the last...
It's treasure collecting, which is another word for organized
hoarding. Yes. You tell me where to go. Ange will hold the phone. I will lead you on the tour. You ask her which door I should open, which drawer I should open, which thing I should do, and we'll show off the studio as if you were right here.
Craig Austin's a spelunker.
Thank you, Craig Austin. You have that's the validation I needed. It's because it would be great, Craig Austin, that if you looked at this and were like, yeah, I know there's walking mushrooms with mouths and eyes, and I have a lot of questions about that. But you know what? He drew the darn stalactites right and the stalagmites. And so points for that. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. We'll see you tomorrow. Be well, be healthy, be safe. I got to tell you, Ange, when I started this, I was anxious. I was kind of mumbling. And I just feel like through this process, I feel a lot better hanging out with you guys and goofing around while we draw. Thank you guys so much for showing up day after day. And we'll see you tomorrow. I love you guys. Be well.